Hello again. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Academy of Creative English, our vacation series, our holiday series, as we get ready for our students to get back to school. We just concluded our preparation for secondary school series for students who are now entering secondary school for the first time. And you are here to join us for our preparation or getting ready for Csec, for students entering fourth and fifth form. So we want to welcome you, and we hope that this series is going to be very beneficial, this workshop, this engagement. What it is I'm going to encourage you to do as we get started, have something that you can take some notes down on, have something, a resource that you can use to take some notes, even if it is to take a picture, anything that you need to do to document some information, because this is just a way to connect with parents and students as the students get ready for the next phase of their secondary journey. We can take it for granted that what they've already been doing is what would work for this next step. But I want to assure you that more is going to be required, and it helps if everyone knows what is taking place. So again, good afternoon and welcome. You can post your questions in the chat in the meantime, but at the end of the session, we will deal with all of your questions, and but your mics are to remain muted and your cameras will be disengaged so that we can get through with what it is we want to do in a timely manner. Note also that this is being live streamed on YouTube under Kimmery Richardson Thomas, Getting Ready for Csec. It's there on YouTube. You can make a note of that. And we want to get started. And as I said, please ensure that you have your cameras and your mics muted and disengaged, but you can feel free to raise your hand if you have a question or type your questions in the chat. All right, so here we go. Getting ready for Csec. Getting ready for Csec. We still have a few persons who are joining in, so let's admit them. Right, getting ready for Csec. And once again, I just want to take the opportunity to say welcome to each and every one of you. Very good afternoon and a welcome to everyone. It's good to have you here. We have 29 persons on the platform. I expect that others would join us because quite a few persons registered for these sessions. So for those who don't know me, if I'm not known to you, my name is Kimmery Richardson Thomas. And I'm sharing with you from over 25 years of experience in primary, secondary, and tertiary education. I have been the academic dean at a secondary school from 2015 to present, previously serving as the head of department for languages. I am a teacher of and exam script marker for creative writing and language arts at the SCA level. And that is for the primary school exit exam for those persons who are out of Trinidad and Tobago. And I also teach and mark scripts for Csec, English A, which is the English language exam, and English B, which is English literature. In addition, I teach and I previously marked for Cape Communication Studies, the Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examinations for A-level students. I'm also the administrator of the Academy of Creative English. That is the institution that is hosting you today. So we say welcome. We're jumping straight into what it is we're here for this afternoon. And the agenda, as I said before, please make some notes. Make some notes because we want to take you on a journey, a course of action so that we can all follow. What we're talking about today will follow these areas. We're looking at the Csec syllabi and past papers. We're going to talk about the SBAs. We're discussing time management and strategies that you can use to manage your time. We'll talk about study skills and what can work best for you. We'll discuss causes of and solutions for stress management, as well as the role of extracurricular activities in this stage of your academic journey. So let's talk about the Csec syllabi and past papers. Now, when we say syllabi, we're talking here the past tense of, it's not past tense, the plural of syllabus. We hear syllabus or syllabuses as well as syllabi. Now, you can go to the CXC website and find these. The syllabi for the respective subjects, they're free. You can go to the CXC website, cxc.org. But when you go to the site, I want to draw this to your attention. The first sample that we have here, if you notice, it says syllabus 2012 to 2017. When you are downloading a syllabus, you have to pay specific attention to the year that it has on it. CXC regularly updates their syllabi. So that I'm using here for our purposes right now, I'm using the English as an example. So after this one had expired, they reviewed and revived the English syllabus so that this one says effective for examinations from May, June 2018. So that you want to ensure that it is a current copy of the syllabus that you're downloading. Currently, CXC would have created syllabi documents that would include the syllabus, specimen papers for the exam, and this is an example of an exam paper, along with how that sample or that specimen was graded, how it was marked. So you'd have the mark scheme that explains how the exam was marked, and that's that particular specimen paper. And they would also include what we call subject reports. Subject reports will tell us how students performed in that particular subject in previous years. This helps you as the student and their parents to be able to identify what are the weaknesses that students exhibit when they're actually doing the exams. And if you go through a few subject reports, you may be able to determine if students are making the same errors every year. So as you prepare for your CXC examination, and on this workshop, we should have students entering fourth form and students entering fifth. As you prepare for these exams, go to the CXC website and download the syllabi for every subject that you're doing and familiarize yourself with it. Go through it. What you're not sure about, ask your teachers, because the syllabi is going to tell you what areas you need to cover in order to adequately prepare for the exam. The syllabi is going to tell you how you should prepare. What are the topics you should be familiar with? What are some exam strategies you can use? And it provides all of this information. So familiarize yourselves with it. And again, I'm stressing, look at the year to ensure that you're looking at a current document. All right. So we looked here at, this is some examples of the English, but again, you can have for all of your other subjects. This is principles of accounts, but you want to look at the year. And I grabbed this from the Google Images page. So you can see that you're looking at the CXC store, you're looking for Csec, you're looking for Csec. So this was an expired one for principles of business. Here for economics, expired, it went up to 2018. So what you really want to try and look for, especially those that might have the document listed below: syllabus, specimen paper, mark scheme, subject report. These would help you in preparing. You may also find that you'd see them with this type of cover, the blue cover. Look for the year. What you're paying attention to, if it's the blue or the black and white, whatever cover you get it in, you're paying attention to the year that it was published and it's effective for which year of the exam. Always ensure that you have the correct one, or else you can find yourself reading a document that is not valid. It's not relevant for the subject year that you are preparing for. In addition, CXC has on its website past paper books. Now, the past paper books that would go up to, let's say, 2015, as in the case of English literature, 2019 English A, where the year has passed, math and additional math. These past paper books are free. You can download these for free. The past papers themselves may still provide some useful practice for you, but the current past paper books, you'd have to pay a cost. It's usually about $6, about $6 US, I believe, but you can double check. But you'd have to pay for the current ones. Past paper books that will contain past papers for exams that are relevant to your current syllabi, there will be a fee attached to those. So feel free to download them. No, they're not free, but download them. But you can also find samples of past papers online that you can also download for free for current past papers. You can speak to your subject teachers. Those of you who are now entering fourth form, try to collect these, begin to collect these, because every single subject that CXC offers, you can find the past paper books that you can access past papers to guide you. In addition, YouTube has some useful resources, and I'm sharing this here. And this is because during the COVID-19 pandemic, many territories within the Caribbean, as well as teachers in a private capacity, prepared information for all of the CSEC subjects. You can go onto YouTube and start to look for information related to your specific subject. But you have to make sure in your search that you type CSEC. CSEC, the word CSEC has to go before it, because if you just do a search for principles of business, it may give you information for other countries that may not be using the CXC syllabus. And to ensure that you get content relevant to the exams you are preparing for, you want to make sure that you type CSEC in front of it. So I'm just going to, I'm showing you here for principles of business. This is for principles of accounts. This is for English A, argumentative writing. We have here for social studies, but it is relevant for all of your subject areas. I will add as well that these are some that I had done for the Division of Education in Tobago, but these are some of my videos for English A and for Cape Communication Studies. But students can access these. They are available, they are free to access. And what it goes through is it gives you lessons on how to approach the different topics for your respective subjects. All right, so I'm encouraging you to go ahead and access these videos on YouTube, access these videos for all of your subject areas. And when you're in doubt, you can feel free to ask a question, and try to make sure, those of you who are now entering fourth form, you want to start to collate this, start to collect them, find the videos for the subjects and start to look at them. Start to look at them before September the 4th. Start to familiarize yourselves with the content for these subjects that you've signed up, that you've selected. For the fifth formers, those going into fifth form, familiarize yourself with the exam content for this subject, because it's going to prove to be very beneficial for you. So I just need you to do something for me. If you are hearing and you're following and everything is making sense to you, just use your emojis, send me a thumbs up, send a thumbs up in the chat or in the reactions, that I know everyone is following and that everything is clear and you're hearing me, it's not sticking, and we're engaged and you know what's happening. All right, so I'm seeing a few thumbs ups, a few persons. Yes, good, 10, nice. All right, so we're still following, very good. Now, so we looked at finding the resources for your exams. We spoke about the syllabi and past papers and information related to that. Let's talk now about school-based assessment. School-based assessment. The school-based assessment is important. And let's talk about what this is. School-based assessments, or the SBA, has been a part of the CXC examination assessment structure from its first examination in 1979. The SBA has generally been accepted as an excellent form of assessment, and many other international examination boards have since followed CXC and introduced SBAs. Now, what the SBA is going to do is that it allows students to do a project for their exam before the actual written exam. And this project is going to be graded by your teacher. When your teachers grade your project, your SBA, when it's sent to CXC, CXC is going to reevaluate it. They're going to double check it and make sure that it was marked correctly. In the past, 1 or 2 subjects had SBAs. In fact, when I did my exams, all of the subjects that I was doing at the time, none of them had SBAs. And I did mathematics, English language, English literature, history, geography, economics. And at that time, none of those subjects had an SBA. Today, every subject has an SBA component. Every CXC subject has an SBA component, and we're going to look at different types of formats for the SBAs. All right, so that once you are going into fifth form to do CXC, you need to do the SBA. And I want to make a little point about the importance of it. Because of COVID, and then this year we had situations where exams were leaked. Some persons, however they tried, whatever they did, they got copies of the exams before the exams, and it was shared. And then with COVID, when the exams were shut down to some extent, CXC made the decisions to use students' SBAs as a major part of their grading criteria. This year, the mathematics exam was leaked, so students did their exams, and the exam had 2 written papers, a multiple choice paper and a structured paper. We call it a structured paper because you have to write out all of your answers and you're working. But the structured paper was leaked, so CXC canceled that exam. And they said students will be graded based on their SBA and the multiple choice. So students who did not submit an SBA really would have found themselves in a difficult situation, even if they might have done a perfect structured exam, or what we call the paper 2. Because CXC ended up canceling the paper 2. So you really want to try your best to do a very good SBA, and we'll talk about it a little bit. Do a very good SBA, get the best marks that you can get, because each subject, the SBA will carry a different percentage towards the exam. For English, the SBA is worth 21% of the exam. Some subjects, the SBA is worth 50%. 60%, 70% of the overall exam. So that there are some subjects, once you pass the SBA and you pass it well, you've already passed the exam even before you've gone into the exam room. So we want that to be clear to you. The functions of the SBA, it is regarded as a good assessment practice. But what function does it really serve? So let's look at what are some of the functions of the SBA. Right. And I'm giving you this information. This is straight out of the CXC's website. And what they've indicated is that the SBA provides opportunities for the teacher to gather data on student performance over time. It provides a more reliable assessment of the student by those who know the student best, which would be the subject teachers. Now, adding here, before I forget, in your schools, your subject teachers will give you deadlines for these. The deadline, and sometimes students may go online, or parents would go online and they would see that CXC has posted or issued the deadline for a particular subject. The deadline that CXC gives for the SBA is going to be different from what your teachers give you. Teachers will give you deadlines so that you can submit the SBA in stages. So it gives your teacher an opportunity to help you improve on it and make corrections before the final submission that teachers will give you, so that the teachers would have sufficient time to grade your SBA and upload it to CXC before CXC's deadline. Those of you entering into fourth form, this may mean that your teachers would give you deadlines for some of your SBAs before the end of this first term. Because again, teachers will collect in stages. Some teachers may just ask for the complete document when you're in fifth form. It will vary, again, depending on the nature and structure of the SBA. The SBA also serves to motivate students by engaging them in meaningful activities that are relevant to them. So when you do the SBA, you're actually going to select a topic that you're interested in, because it's a project that you're going to work on based on something you're interested in, following the guidelines for your subject. The SBA also reinforces the curriculum aims and good teaching practices. It aligns assessment with curriculum and instruction. It provides students with multiple opportunities to demonstrate their competence, so that you're not only going to be graded on a multiple choice exam or an essay or a structured exam. It also gives you an opportunity to do a project and improve on that project so that you can demonstrate how well you understand the topic. It allows students to be active participants in the assessment process. It gives credence and recognition to the teacher's informed judgments about the student's performance, meaning that it allows the teacher, it tells us that the teacher really understands who the student is and what you've done. And it allows teachers to be critical leaders in the assessment process. All of these represent the functions of the SBA, and it is a very important element of your CXC preparation. Right. So let's talk here about the format. The layout of the SBA. And the SBA may be presented in a number of formats, including the following. Each subject would ask you to do something different. Some SBAs would be in the form of a portfolio or a journal. You can have dramatic presentations, for example, in Csec Theatre Arts. For Csec Dance, you would have to actually dance as part of your SBA requirement. Research assignments. You would need to do some research for your SBAs, again, depending on the subject. Multimedia presentations for music and for arts and so on. You may need to do that. A community project. Laboratory activities, including investigations, especially for your sciences. Site visits and field trips. Some of the business subjects, you may need to do a site visit and visit a business and interview business owners. Oral exams for your language subjects, English, Spanish, French, Portuguese. You will need to do oral components where you'll be asked to speak in the language. Case studies, sporting events and sporting activities and event planning. And this is particular for PE, physical education and sports. Students may need to host their school sports event or plan a sporting event. Then you have design and composing, especially for the technical vocational subjects, such as food and nutrition, clothing and textile, electronics, right? So that these are some formats that the SBA can take. And it is important for you to know, especially when you download the syllabus guide, start to investigate what is the format you would be required to use for your individual SBAs. You want to be very familiar with what are the documents and guidelines that your school would use. What are the school and exam guidelines? Check the rules as they pertain to examinations. Check your rules. Check the rules. You want to review the rules as they relate to your exam preparation. familiarize yourself with these because you're preparing for an academic function. As you get into fourth form, for those entering fourth form, you're going to see that you have a reduction in the number of subjects that you're going to be doing. Where you might have been doing 12, 13, or 14 subjects or 15 subjects before in forms 1 to 3, now you may be doing 6, 7, 8, or maybe even 9 subjects. But there's a reduction. You've sort of trimmed the fat is a word that we use. You've cut down on how many you're doing. You're going to be engaged with fewer teachers, one for each subject as you were doing before, but less subjects than previously. Now, even though the number of subjects may have reduced, the workload has increased because more is going to be required at this level. So if you were writing essays that were 300 words in first form, second form, third form, fourth form, fifth form, you need to be writing more at 400, 450, 500 words. If you were submitting assignments that were 2 or 3 pages before, you're going to be required to submit assignments that may have more pages. If you were doing recordings of assessment that might have been 3 minutes long, now you're required to do 5 and 7 minutes, or maybe 10 minutes, as the case may be, of recorded work to submit to your teachers. And you need to be aware of this because this is what is your new academic reality. You want to make sure that you're attending all of your classes and take notes. Students don't like to take notes, but what you write down, you will tend to remember. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail shortly. Write down notes, jot down notes. Some teachers will give you notes and ask to see them, but you also need to write down what it is your teachers are saying in classes. Write down when assignments are due. Write down what are the requirements. Write down things you need to pay attention to in order to get a good grade. You want to plan your study time and manage your workload. And we're going to talk about scheduling, how you can schedule your study time. And you want to seek help from your teachers. Seek help when you need. You can speak to teachers at your school. You can speak with other persons who you know can assist you. Sometimes you can get help and it may not be directly from your teachers, but especially where it relates to your SBAs. Remember, your teacher is the one who will be grading the SBA. So ensure that your guidance is coming from your subject teacher in your school, particularly for the SBA. Over the years, students have gone online and gotten guidance for their SBA from YouTube, which can be helpful sometimes, but YouTube is not grading your SBA. They've gotten guidance from online sites that may not have had anything to do with CXC. And while the information may sound valid, remember, the YouTube site and Google, they're not grading your work. Make sure that you communicate with your teachers. This is the period in time that you need to have a very good working relationship with your teachers. Let your teachers know you are working. Let your teachers see that you are trying. If you don't understand something, let your teachers know so that if you run into difficulty, your teachers understand, listen, this student is normally letting me know what is happening. Let me see how I can assist. But if you're not communicating with your teachers and they're not seeing the work, some teachers may decide that you are not interested, so they may not reach out to help you. Stay in touch with your teachers, communicate with them, balance your time. Let them know what is challenging. Let them know where you need help. So let's talk about time management. This is the third aspect of our third topic, time management. It is very crucial, if you've not already begun to do so, that you begin to understand the importance of managing your time. You need to set goals. This is the stage where it's important to set goals. I like to tell students, whatever it is you're working towards, find a picture of it and stick it up somewhere where you can see it. Set the goals. Long-term goals, short-term goals. What is your long-term goal? To get 8 grade 1s in the next 2 years? Or is your long-term goal really to achieve something else career-wise or study-wise in the next 5 to 10 years? What is the goal? And when you determine the goal, you want to be very, very specific about what it is. Write it down. Stick it up where you can see it. Make sure that the goal is measurable. Is it that you want to make sure that you improve or increase your average at the end of each term? Were you getting 50 to 60% average before? And is it that the goal is going to be to increase your average by 5 or 10%, 20%? Because if you set that as a goal, at the end of each term, you would be able to see your grades and you can measure if you are attaining that goal. The goal must be attainable, something that you can do. But I want to challenge you that sometimes you can have a goal that may seem impossible. Not because it seems impossible means it's impossible. Because some of you may be interested in doing something that has not been invented as yet. It has not been explored as yet. And in order for this to become a reality, you have to be the innovator or the creator or the designer of this thing. So don't be discouraged if you hear anyone saying, but nobody has ever done anything like that before, especially if it is something that is good and beneficial. If you can imagine it, by the grace of God, you can achieve it. So I want you to not just think that it's impossible. See if it can be attainable, but it may take more work. And if you know you are up to it, go for it. Make sure that the goals are relevant. It has to make sense. It has to make sense. You want to have a goal that would make sense, that would be relevant, that would align itself with what is happening now. Don't set as your goal in the next year or two that you want to build a huge compound to house multiple businesses, unless, of course, if you're a multimillionaire and you have the time to do that and the resources. But the key thing here is you don't have all of that extra time for a bigger project that's not relevant for you now. I'm saying this because I want you to dream big, dream big, but make sure that your focus is on your Csec exams as it relates to the next year or two. And it must be time bound. Give yourself a time to achieve this goal. How much time will it take? Set a time limit to it, because we're talking about setting smart goals. Smart goals, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. You want to also make sure that as you set out these goals that you are reducing the distractions. Reduce distractions, phones ringing, you have assignments to do, the clock is ticking, the dog, your pet dog is barking, somebody is calling you, whatever it is. You want to make sure that you reduce the distractions, because distractions are going to prevent you from achieving your goals. Another thing that can help you to achieve your goals is to reward your accomplishments. If, as you set about to achieve these goals, you realize, yes, things are happening. You got back an assignment and you got an A, excuse me, reward yourself. Play a game. Reward yourself a toy. Treat yourself. And parents, I encourage you to do this too for the students. If you see that they've improved, reward the accomplishment. But it must be clearly understood that rewards must come as a result of hard work, because if there is no hard work, there cannot be a reward. We who are adults and go to work, we know when we go to work, we get paid. Students' job is to study and get good grades. If they're not doing the job, they cannot get paid. and their payment would be the rewards. So this is important. Do not reward a lack of accomplishment, but you want to encourage. If the student is struggling, students, if you are struggling, the hope is that you get support, but know that you have to work towards the goal so that you can get rewards. Set time limits. I mentioned that a little while just now. How long is it going to take you to get this goal done? We spoke about your goals being time bound. It can be that you are taking forever to do this. And it brings me to this point here. When you're doing your work, make sure that you have a clock visible. I want to encourage you, students who are on the platform, parents who are on the platform, get a watch. Students, if you have one that you've not been using, get it repaired. If you have to, get a watch. Because when you're in school and when you get ready to do your exams, you will not be able to use your phone to check your time. You would be able to keep your watch on as long as it's not a programmable watch that you're going to try to use to download information with, but have a regular working watch so that you can time yourself. Everything that you're doing, every activity that you're engaged in, you want to be able to monitor your time. You want to give yourself a time to complete the task. And you want to be able to also check the exams that you're working on to see how long each exam is going to run for, and begin to practice to do your work, to complete past papers, and to do past paper practice within the stipulated time. Right. This here is a sample of a study timetable. In just a minute, I'm going to ask you a question and you're going to need to respond. Right? This is an example of a study timetable, but note that it starts at 4:30 because the idea is that students should have enough time to get home. Some of you, depending on where you live in relation to where your school is, you may get home a little later than that. But whatever time it is, and if you look, this is a study schedule that runs from 4:30 to 6 p.m., 1.5 hours. But you need to put more time than this into your study schedule. This one actually runs at half an hour per activity. And the student here has placed their math homework, science homework. So they look at the homework first and then do revision. The first 2 segments on this timetable, this study timetable, covers homework, and then the final session covers revision. I want you to note as well that the student has also blocked out time to relax, a night off, going to a friend's party. So when you do your timetable, block out times that you may have football practice, block out times that you may have additional classes, block out times that you may use to go to the movies or to do some particular chores. Some students may even have an extra, might have a part-time job. Put them on your schedule so that you can see how much time you have remaining for study, because the study has to be your primary objective. You want to make sure that you're doing this. What we're going to talk about here, we're looking at study skills. Next area here, we're going to look at study skills, and I'm going to share with you a video that looks at some skills that you can use to help you study. Now, the video, the narration is a little quick, but I want you to pay attention because at the top of the screen, they would number, and we're looking at 9 study tips. Because when I'm finished, I'm going to ask you a question based on this video, and you'll put your responses in the chat. So let's take a look here. We're going to take a look at the 9 best scientific study tips, and you're going to follow, pay attention. It's going to go quickly. It's about 3 minutes. 3 minutes. So jot down as it goes, and then I'm going to ask you a question at the end of the video. Here we go.
Time for school, and it's no surprise that many of us are determined to study smarter instead of longer. But which study tips and tricks actually work scientifically and can help you get those perfect grades? First up, research shows that study sessions are most effective in small, short chunks. Instead of cramming in a 10-hour study session, it's much more effective to spread it out into 20, 30-minute sessions over a few weeks. This is because your brain is better at encoding information into the synapses in short, repeated sessions as opposed to one large one. And this is why even learning different skills, whether it's swimming, tennis, or a singing lesson, often follows this same format. And while cramming and pulling all-nighters may be a ritual, it turns out that this is linked to the lowest grades. After prolonged nocturnal study sessions, reasoning and memory may be negatively affected for up to 4 whole days. Instead, setting up specific times in a day or during the week just to study primes your brain by creating a routine, and over time, studying actually becomes easier as your brain is trained to learn in those moments. And while many of us spend hours passively rereading our notes or highlighting a textbook, studies have shown this to be ineffective. It doesn't improve your understanding of topics, nor does it link key concepts together. It can even be detrimental as it draws your attention to less important information. Flashcards, on the other hand, are proven to be excellent memory reinforcement tools, whether during your scheduled study times or during off times like a bus ride home. It also helps to have a specific goal for each study session. Instead of aimlessly studying, pick one aspect you'll focus on, whether it's balancing chemical equations or learning how to conjugate French verbs. If you can't explain it simply, then you don't understand it well enough. In studies where individuals were asked to learn a passage and then half were told that they would be tested on the material while the other half were told they would have to teach it to other students, participants expecting to teach it did much better at understanding the main points. When you're expecting to teach, your brain organizes the information in a more logical, coherent structure. Of course, practice, practice, practice. Not only do practice tests put your brain in the environment, but even if you make mistakes, they help identify gaps in your knowledge. Practice tests have also been shown to increase confidence, thereby leading to better performance. So, where should you be studying? Research shows that having a designated sacred spot for study that's well equipped with every tool you might need is best. Just like setting times, this primes your brain for studying. Have an awesome study playlist? Not so fast. While some studies have shown that certain types of classical music can help improve concentration, a recent study has shown that learning with rhythmic background noise can be detrimental to focus, and those not using music fared much better. And if you haven't already, put away your phone. This is a no-brainer, but your texts and social media notifications severely decrease concentration. Of course, exams can be extremely stressful, so if you want some tips on how to deal with exam anxiety, check out our ASAP Thought video, which breaks down some tips for that. Link in the description.
Okay, so we just got some study tips. We got some study tips.
And a big
So let's take a look at what the question is.
plan. We know how tough it can be.
Let's move on to the right. Here we go. So here's the question. Which of these study skills that we just looked at would you like to try? I want to give you 3. Give me 3. Type it in the chat. 3 study tips that we just discussed, that was just in the video. Send in the chat 3 study tips that you would like to try. Type it in the chat, and we're going to look at a few of them. So let's see. Give me 3 that you would like to try, that you think can help you, that you may have never used before, but might help you with your studying. 3 study tips that can help you. So let's see what it is you have to share with us. 3 study skills that you would like to try. We're checking in the chat. And we'll give folks just about another 30 seconds. What are 3 of these study skills that we just explored that you can use, that you believe would help you, that would be beneficial to you? All right. So what I would also encourage you to do, this video is available the video on the study tips. It is available in YouTube. This was a YouTube video, so you can feel free to go to it. It is the 9 best study tips. And you can also look at other videos that can help you develop a very strong study schedule. All right, so we're going to continue from there because I realize that we are still doing quite well for time. So 3 study skills, and you can still go ahead and post it in the chat. And we're continuing, right? So some persons, I'm seeing responses are coming in. Responses are coming in. Let's just get back to presentation here. And the things that happens when you're doing a live broadcast is that the technology tends to stick sometimes. All right, so people have been sending in their responses, and we're getting some very interesting responses that we're seeing. Put away the phone, study in small time frames, and have specific goals. Organizing, setting up small study sessions, and finding a study spot that encourages focus for study. We have flashcards, shorter, more frequent studies, and set a time so it becomes a routine. Using a study playlist. Now, be careful. What it said is that some students would use a study playlist, but what the studies have shown, what research has shown, is that those who study without the playlist do a lot better, because the study playlist can tend to distract. So be careful with that. They did mention a study playlist, but it can be a distraction. So flashcards, time limits, make a routine, put away the phone, right? Yes, have a study timetable. Good. So I wanted to make sure that persons are following, and that you found some things that can help you as you prepare. All right. Now, when we talk about the study skills, here is something else that I want us to be aware of. We looked at strategies, we looked at techniques, but I also want you to be aware of what is referred to as the learning styles. We're talking here about learning styles. Let's go to that. Individual learning styles. Each student has an individual learning style. And I'm talking about this because your learning style will be different from your friends, your teachers, your parents. And parents, sometimes the way we learn will be different to how our children learn. It will be different to how their teachers learn. But teachers may have one learning style, the student may have something that's different, or parents would have something that's different, but we expect the student to learn how we learn. So what do we mean by learning styles? A learning style is the way in which someone learns or processes information. The term can also encompass, or it can involve, the ways a person chooses to organize information and to display their knowledge. So you're going to find that some people can get their information and understand it by hearing it, some from reading it, some from doing it. And I want to introduce to you a concept for those who are not familiar with it. We're looking at what's called the VARK learning styles. VARK: visual, audio, read, write, kinesthetic. The VARK learning style. So that what it simply means is that students learn differently. Students who are visual learners, they learn by seeing things. When they see the information such as charts, graphs, infographics, outlines, videos help the visual learner, PowerPoint. Visual learners learn best that way. Auditory learners learn by hearing. They would learn from a podcast. They would learn from listening to the recorded version of this workshop, verbal instructions and discussions. They learn best that way. Then you can have the student who learns best through reading and writing. They would read the book. They would look up things in a dictionary. They will take the notes. They would write down things, and they can go through the information and they will understand it. But then we have the kinesthetic learner who learns by doing. This learner is very active. They need to do role playing. They need to do scenarios. They need hands-on information and hands-on interaction. All four of these elements are very adequate ways of learning information. But it also means that if you are being taught by a visual person who is presenting the information in a visual format, you may need to take that visual format and restructure it for your purposes. So on this platform right now, you're getting visual aids from me, you're hearing my voice. I'm asking you to also take notes, and then I may have you send information in the chat to help you do some things. I want you to take a few minutes. We're going to look at a video, and it's going to give you some more information on the different types of learners. And I want you to pay close attention. And when we are finished, you would be able to tell me, type in the chat, what kind of learner you believe you are. But don't send the information until you've seen it, because there may be some twists to this. The kind of learner you are it's going to also help you to determine what are some of the strategies you would need to use to help you study best. So let's take a look here at this video. We have another short video. Discover your learning styles. Here we go.
Here's Jonathan studying for a test. And studying, and studying, and studying. And here he is getting his test results. All that studying, and he still got an F. Why? The thing is, there's no one right way to study. Some methods might work great for one person and not at all for others. Everybody learns differently. In order to find a study method that's best for you, it's important to know your learning style. The four most popular learning styles are visual, auditory, reading, writing, and kinesthetic, or hands-on. For most people, one of these methods will work best, but it's also possible for a combination of different styles to be effective. To discover your learning style, you can complete an online assessment. There's a wide variety of them available, consisting of multiple choice questions. However, you can also observe yourself and your previous learning experiences to get an idea of how you learn best. Let's circle back to Jonathan. When he's in class and his teacher is lecturing, he gets distracted pretty easily. Words tend to go in one ear and out the other. But when his teacher starts using visuals, Jonathan finds it easier to focus and understand the material. So he might be a visual learner. Now think about your history. How have you enjoyed learning in the past? Do you prefer watching over listening? Do you enjoy reading instead? Or maybe you learn best by doing, with hands-on experience. If none of these seem to grab you, give them each a try and see which one you tend to drift towards. Each learning style has its own study methods that work best with it. Let's take a look at how Jonathan and a few of his classmates study. As a visual learner, Jonathan finds it helpful to color code his notes. He finds it helps him to organize information and internalize it better. He also creates diagrams while studying, finding that they help him to better understand certain structures and ideas. Jonathan watches videos too, finding them helpful for extra information. Ruby is more of an auditory learner. She likes to study in a group and discuss the material with others. Sometimes she'll read her notes out loud because it helps her to hear what she's studying. In some classes, Ruby will record the lecture, with her teacher's permission of course, so that she can go back and listen to it later. Terrell finds that he learns best by reading and writing. He takes substantial notes during class and reads over them often. When he's trying to memorize something, he'll often write it out. He also makes sure to read and reread any materials his teacher has assigned the class. Raya is a kinesthetic learner. She's got a lot of energy and likes doing things. Labs and hands-on activities help her to understand certain ideas and topics. Sometimes she'll review her material while she's walking around. She also likes to take breaks in order to release some of her energy, allowing her to focus when she returns to studying. All 4 of these students are studying the same material, but they're doing so in different ways. Now, this doesn't guarantee that they'll all get the same grades, but by determining their learning style and finding study methods that work for them, they just might find themselves getting better results.
Right. So here's the question that I have for you. In the chat, just as you did before, having looked at it, having looked at this video, can you determine what your learning style is? And I will add, you can go ahead and type it in, but it's best if you do a learning styles assessment. And you can go online and look for a learning styles assessment. It would ask you some multiple choice questions. And when you put in your answers, they would give you the results of the assessment, and it would tell you what kind of learner you are. And understanding the kind of learner you are is important so that you know how best you study. So send me in the chat, type what kind of learner you believe you are, or are you a combination of learning styles? What kind of learner do you believe you are? Right. And some persons are sending it to me privately, and that's not a problem at all. Yes, persons are sending these privately. So visual and kinesthetic, two responses, visual, right? Now, 2 things you're going to do. Identify what your learning style is, but do the learning style assessment, and it would show you what are strategies you can use to help you study effectively. Because not all of your classes will be structured based on your specific learning style. And the majority of persons are telling me they're visual or visual and kinesthetic. But a lot of classes, your English classes may not always involve kinesthetic activities. Your science classes, you will be able to do labs and so on, but you would need to sit still. If you're not doing things like theater, arts, and dance, and PE, physical education, and sports, you may not have a lot of movement, like food and nutrition. You may not have a lot of movement and hands-on. So if you are a kinesthetic student, you may need to learn how to control your behavior in classes, but when you are studying, use those study strategies that would help you to remain focused and to get the work done. So make sure, I'm encouraging you students and parents who are here, and thank you very much for your responses. Majority of persons have indicated kinesthetic or visual. So find the strategies that work best for you. All right, so I'm hoping that this part was helpful. We still have 2 other areas that we want to talk about. And I want to just pause here before we go on to the other 2 areas, as we were talking about the VARC, and it's called the VARC Learning Style Assessment. Any questions so far before we get to the last 2 sections? If you have any questions, you can feel free to raise your hands, and we would facilitate the questions. Any questions at this time? Raise your hand. Use the reaction to raise your hand. Or if you have a question, you can post it in the chat. And I take a minute or 2 for questions. All right, so I see Kyra Lee, you had your hand up and it's down. You let me know. Okay, the hand went back down. Okay, so if you have a question, otherwise, put it in the chat and we would address it towards the end. So let's continue. We're going to look at the 5th area. So we've looked at the other topics in our workshop, and now we're going to go to point number 5. We're going to talk about managing stress. We're talking about managing stress because as students getting ready for exams, this can be a very stressful point in time. And the reality is life is filled with various stressors. but school can be stressful. And there are certain things that you can do, things that you can engage in that can reduce your stress, but there are also things that you can do that can increase your stress. I want to make a point here that the persons you interact with can make or break you. Depending on who your friends are, they can either add to your stress or reduce your stress. Not all those, and I'm leaving these two quotes with you, not all those who share your nature are going in your direction. Choose people who value what you value and who are heading where you are going. You're going to find that you may have friends who have a lot in common with you, but they don't share the same values. They don't share your values. They don't share your goals. So when you're going in one direction, they're going in the next. Additionally, you become like the 5 people you spend the most time with. So choose carefully. Who do you spend most of your time with? And it's a good idea to find yourself in the company of persons who are going in the same direction you want to go in, who are achieving some of the same goals as you are. Because you will find that the involvement in whatever they're doing would also encourage and inspire you to do the same. When you're managing stress, you want to also pay attention to undesired student behaviors, because things that you may involve yourself in will create stress for your academics. You don't want to be disturbing the peace of a lesson. Teachers may be teaching in a peaceful environment. Don't disturb the peace. You can find yourself stressing others or find yourself stressed yourself because teachers will put you out of the class. You want to prepare for your lessons. If you're not prepared for your classes, if you're not prepared for your subjects, this can lead to stress. Sleeping during the lesson will mean you're losing information. Being distracted, you would lose information and you're not going to understand what is taking place, adding to your stress. Disrespectful behaviors in class will impact on your learning and in your education. So you want to make sure that you remain respectful of teachers, respectful of other students. Avoid getting into fights. Make sure you are obeying your school rules. Don't bully others and don't get to class late. All of these are undesired student behaviors that can lend itself to a negative school experience for you. We talk about cyberbullying during this time because you can use your phones, and some students are stressed through no fault of their own because other students are stressing them. Other students are preventing them from learning. And my hope is that all of you who are on the platform don't fall into the category of students who prevent other children and other students from engaging in their learning. I want to also touch on 7 behavior problems that children learn in school, because we looked at undesirable student behavior, but there's a study that looked at 7 behavior problems that students learn in school that can affect your learning in a negative way. Inappropriate language. I encourage you to build your vocabulary, learn new beneficial words so that you can find alternative language to use, especially when you're frustrated, so that you're not resorting to swear words and to cursing. You want to avoid gossiping about others to create an uncomfortable environment for others. Students need to eat properly. We're talking here about bad eating habits. And when we talk about this, I have seen over the years, many students who get to school and are now looking for something at the cafeteria for breakfast. And some cafeterias may not always have something that's healthy. Once or twice, we can understand that, but it should not be the habit that every day you're buying a fried pie or you're eating a snack from, as one person said in an earlier workshop, the shiny packs. potato chips and corn kernels. Avoid these, you know, you can have a little snack now and then, and some places will tell you avoid them altogether. But I could understand if some people are interested in some of these snacks, but it should not be the basis of your nutritional intake. You don't want to be maliciously or spitefully excluding other people. You're planning to do something and you're saying, we're not talking to this one, we're not talking to you, we're not inviting you. Deliberately hurting other people's feelings. Acting boy or girl crazy, meaning you're in 4th form and 5th form and all you're concentrating on is a boyfriend and a girlfriend. This is not the time for it. I would say this because I've seen it. You're in a relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, at this time, and you break up. And what happens if you break up the day before your exams, the week before your exams? You can't focus. You're distracted. When you should be focusing on studying, you're concentrating on a relationship that you have the rest of your life to develop. So now is not the time for boyfriend and girlfriend. It's not the time. Inappropriate social media use. What are you using TikTok, Instagram for? What are you using Facebook for? What are you using WhatsApp for? Are you recording inappropriate videos and posting to social media? You can use social media to share schoolwork and content. You can use social media to learn a new skill and share what you've learned in that new skill. So avoid inappropriate social media use. Number 7, and I've actually seen this, where students feel that they're too cool for school. You feel as if your classmates and your friends will think you are a nerd if you know your work. So you pretend to be dumb. You pretend to not know. You pretend to be ignorant of the information just to come across as being popular. The danger with this is that sometimes the people you're trying to impress with this behavior, they are going home and they are studying their own work. They would laugh with you in class and encourage you to ignore the teacher or ignore the work, but they will go home and study. And they will excel and surpass you. So be very, very careful, because all of these can lead to long-term stress for you. Inappropriate behavior can lead to suspensions, and you all are familiar with this. You've been in school long enough. You don't want to be suspended. You see this next year, 2 years, 4th form, 5th form, it's not the time to be engaging in suspensions. It's going to keep you away from what you need to do in class to help you advance your academic career. Because that's what it is. You have an academic career. You're in 4th form, 5th form. Your objective is to be in school as often as possible. Don't skip school for reasons that are unnecessary. If you're sick, okay. But it can be that you're skipping school because, well, you want to go and see a movie, or, well, you want to go and buy something and you don't want to buy it after school. So you skip school. You don't go to school that day because you want to do that. It has to be a legitimate reason. Please. The next year or two, 4th form and 5th form, they're important to your academic success. When you're managing your stress, how you cope with stress is important. You can take deep breaths, because some students may have anxiety attacks, and it's important to just relax a little bit. You want to organize yourselves. Take time for self-care. Get your nails done, do your hair, treat yourself. Go to the beach and do something to take care of you. What it is I like to do when I feel slightly stressed, I like to watch movies or watch a short segment of something, a short video. It helps me. Sometimes I would look at stand-up comedy, but I look for stand-up comedy that's clean, without vulgarity and without obscene language. And then I laugh. I look at the stand-up comedy, I listen to them and I laugh, and it helps to relieve my stress. So you want to be able to do that, to also even find someone that you can trust. You want to find someone you can trust. Some common sources of stress for students, and tell me which one of these you can relate to. Which one is the most stressful for you? Pick one. Pick one. Is it school? Is it homework? Extracurricular activities? Social challenges like speaking in front of a crowd and speaking in front of the class? Is it the transition? Are you transferring to a new school? Are you moving into a new area? Are relationships or friendships stressful? Do you feel a pressure to succeed? As if you're under a lot of pressure to do well? Is it that you have a job and the job is also stressing you out? Which one of these stresses you out the most? Type it in the chat. Let's just have a little quick conversation. Which ones are most stressful for you? Because if you can identify what are the sources of your stress, then you can start to have a conversation about what you can do to reduce stress. So let's see what it is persons are indicating. All right, the ever popular homework. Homework is always seen as a source of stress, but I'm encouraging you, section out the homework. You're going to always have homework once you're in school, but don't wait for the last minute to do it. The pressure to succeed, yes, that can be stressful. Social challenges and homework. So the main ones, social challenges, school, homework, pressure to succeed. This is what persons have indicated for those of you who sent responses. Social challenges, pressure to succeed, school, homework. Thank you for sharing those. But we want to go into a little bit more detail here. Excuse me. Excuse me. To reduce your stress, I'm sorry. Right. To help you reduce your stress, get enough sleep. Not too much, because oversleeping will cause stress as well. Oversleeping. Some studies have said 8 hours, but I've also realized 7 is enough for you going into 4th and 5th form. In fact, 5 hours, especially as you get ready to prepare for your exams. 5 hours should be sufficient, and it should be 5 to 6 restful sleep. Not 5 to 6 hours with the TV on or with you constantly checking your phone. That is going to disrupt your sleep. Not 5 to 6 hours with a lot of noise. Anything more than 7 can leave you feeling lethargic or lazy. Too much sleep, not enough sleep, is going to make you feel uncomfortable when you get to school. So you want the right balance. Get sufficient sleep so you can function during the day when you're in school. You want to also find time to exercise. Get sufficient exercise. It can be aerobics, it can be running. If you're involved in a sport, and we're going to talk about extracurricular activities in a bit, you want to do something that involves moving your body. Exercise is a very good stress reliever. Dance. Sometimes you can just put on some music and dance. It would help you to de-stress. Listening to the music. Sit down and listen to music that can help relax you, that you enjoy, that would make you feel comfortable. And that helps to reduce stress. Also, make sure that you have a good circle. Who are your people? Who are your go-to people that if you're under stress, if you're feeling uncomfortable, something is worrying you, who are the people you can talk to? And make sure that it's people who would listen to you and give sound advice. Not people who will give you bad advice. Not people who are going to tell you, oh, go and bust up your face. No, sorry. You want persons who would give you good advice. Not someone who's going to encourage you to retaliate or to do something that would get you suspended or get you into trouble. You want to make sure you have a balanced diet that should include fruits, vegetables, and lots of water. You cannot be eating junk food. And it can't be that you are only eating a diet of meat and carbohydrates. I like my meat. I love meat. But I make sure that I have a lot of fruits and vegetables in every meal. Fruits and or vegetables. Every meal must have some vegetable for me. All right? because the fruits and vegetables, they help you balance your stress. It helps you balance your lifestyle. It helps you balance your focus. And you also want to make sure that you can have a safe space to do your work. This is also going to reduce your stress. Parents who are on the platform, you have students who are entering into 4th and 5th form. If they don't already have a safe space to study, help them create it. When I was doing my 5th form exams, my parents were renovating the house at the time. And there was an area that was not, the windows weren't up yet. It was plastered, but it was not ready. And I used some pieces of wood, some ply, and I created a table for myself. Because the room was a little bit apart from the rest of the house, it gave me space to study. My father ran some electrical wires and created a light. He used one of those long industrial lights, so that there was light in the space, so that when it got later in the evening, I had light to study. When I was doing my common entrance exam, back then where we lived, the porch area, it was burglar proofed, and my parents ran curtains, thick drapes in the gallery, in that burglar proofed area, so that the gallery was my study room. I know that some students study in their rooms, on their beds. If you know studying in your bed is going to make you sleepy, change that. I want to also add here that depending on where you live, visit your local library after school or on weekends. If you can do so on a Saturday, do that. Some persons, because of your religious affiliation, you may not be able to go to the library on a Saturday. But even now that school is closed, visit the library. Go to the library and sit and begin to do studying. Yes, you're thinking, well, it's vacation. 4th and 5th formers don't have vacation until you are finished with your Csec exams. That's when you have vacation. And it may sound harsh, but it's a reality. If you want to succeed, if you want to be ahead of the class, make the time, find the space, study. All right? So the last area that we're talking about here is extracurricular activities. And you're going into, those of you who are in 5th form, you want to strike a balance between preparing for your exams and your extracurricular activity, especially if you are engaged in a particular sport and you're in a club and you have an activity that's very demanding. Extracurricular activities are important. I would never suggest that when you are getting ready for exams that you stop all your extracurricular activities. And there are reasons for this. And this is because there are studies that have shown that participating in high school extracurricular activities broadens students' social circles, it expands their interest, and develops leadership abilities. This is true. According to the research, participation in high school extracurricular activities produces positive long-term effects. It is important to provide breaks from the studies for students, and this is what the extracurricular activity does. You get a break from the work, but that is if you're using a schedule. And remember, I said before, when you do your study schedule, block out the areas for breaks and extracurricular activities. Put them in, schedule them. Students who are involved in extracurricular activities build new skills. You instill new interest and you're exposed to new opportunities while also having something that you can add to your resume. So when you're finished with school, you want to be able to say, apart from studying these subjects, apart from passing 7 or 8 or 9 Csec subjects, that you were also involved in the 4-H club and you were involved in agriculture science, that you were in the chess club, that you played football or you played netball or cricket, that you were part of the photography club, that you were engaged in coding and robotics. You were able to do something else along with your subjects and you were able to balance both areas and do them well. I have personally found that students who have a strong extracurricular activity involvement as an English teacher, their involvement in their extracurricular activities, it spills over into what they write and how they write. So students who are engaged in extracurricular activities, they may travel, they may go to new places, they may be involved in competitions, and they can use those experiences when they write. So it's not that you suspend all. You may need to cut back or reduce as you get closer to your exam date, but it's good to still have an extracurricular activity as you prepare for your exams so that you can have a break. I want to make a plug here for these two groups that I believe are very important in every school life. PTA, parents in particular who are on the platform, please ensure that you are a part of your child's, the students' school's PTA, Parent-Teacher Association. Your PTA involvement is important. Know what is going on at the school, what are decisions that are being made at the school that impact your child. And you're also going to find that it can come in handy after results. Your involvement in PTA will come in very handy after results. Some schools make concessions for students whose parents were actively involved, so that if your child may not have attained all of their passes and they need to repeat, some schools may look at your involvement as a parent in the PTA and said, look, okay, we would let your child come back, especially if they were well behaved. If you know the child was not behaving well, walk away, walk away. Students, I want to also encourage you, if your school has a functioning student council, get involved. Get involved. It would mean that you would run for a position, because the student council, if you don't have one, a student council essentially is the student government in your school. And these are students who are part of the decision-making process of your school. They can be the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, public relations officer, class reps, year group representatives, and they have the ear of the school administration, so they can take concerns that students have to the school administration and bring about some changes. And I'm seeing someone indicating vice president of your school student council. I'm happy to hear that. So you want to do that. I know there's so much happening, and probably it's best for those of you who are, if you're running for student council, don't do it in fifth form, only if you know for a fact you're coming back to your school in sixth form. Because if you're a fifth former who is getting ready to leave, you don't want to run for student council, depending on when the elections are, if you're not going to be around to do anything, and if you're not going to have the time to do anything. As I close for presentations and as I close the presentation, and before we go for questions, I want you to bear in mind, note that high school can be overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. This is the time for you to become very organized. Manage your time wisely. Ask for help to manage your stress, and get involved in school activities, extracurricular activities. Get involved. Leave a positive mark. When you leave the school, it shouldn't be that teachers remember you because you were giving the most trouble. Let the teachers remember you. Let your school remember you because you made a positive impact. You might be able to even assist students who are struggling with a subject area. If you are good in that area, tutor that child lunchtime. Set up a tutoring hub in your school that other students who might be your friends who might also understand the work. Lunchtime, twice a week, you're giving tutoring for maths, for English, for science. Pick a subject that you're strong in and come together and work on it. I want to say thank you to all of you who've been on the platform. And I hope that this was beneficial for you. If you found that there were topics or there are things you wanted more information on that you feel was not covered, you need to let us know. but we will take some questions at this time if for any reason we did not cover something that you felt you needed to know as you got ready, as you're getting ready for your Csec exams. So any questions? We want to take questions at this time as we've come to the end of our presentation. If you have questions, and let me shift to this view, because if it's a question that you need to open your mic and speak, you can raise your hand and we can open the mic and let you say what you need to say. Any questions? If you want to make a comment, you can put it in the chat, but if you want to speak, let us know and we can facilitate that. Right. So I take it that everything was clear and you got all of the information you wanted and everything was answered. I see yes, miss in the chat. Everything was clear. Everything that you wanted to find out about, you found out about. I'm seeing yes, miss, yes, miss, yes, miss, yes, miss. Beautiful. So I am expecting that all of you who've been on this platform, you are ready to ace your test. You are ready. And this is what the Academy of Creative English, one of the things that we hope to achieve, that students who interact with us, students who engage us, parents and students who are part of whatever we're offering, you must leave with tools that should allow you to ace the test, do well, succeed. Make sure that you are the best student you can be going forward. And once again, I want to thank all of you for staying on and listening, and that you can feel free to reach out to the Academy of Creative English on our Facebook page. You can feel free to do that. And we look forward to being able to assist you again. What I will ask before I go, if there's an area that you believe you think that you would like to have a workshop for, send it in the chat. If there's something that you think you would want to have some additional information, not just English, right? The recording is going to be available on our Facebook page, and it's also available in YouTube, so that you have my phone number. If you cannot find it, you can send me a message and I can send the recording to you, because it's being recorded live on YouTube and it's going to be available and accessible, and you can feel free to share it. This was a free workshop and it was geared to giving you tools and assisting you, so you can feel free to share. Yes, it will be available. So once again, thank you very much. Let me send the phone number. Right. And someone is asking if I will consider doing this for SCA students. We did this last year for SCA. I do this regularly for SCA. You can contact me. Right, the phone number is in the chat. It should be 1-868, yes, 723-5239 for the benefit of persons who are out of Trinidad and Tobago. We have done similar workshops for SCA students, and there is one on YouTube, Preparation for SCA. We do this because students at all levels, parents at all levels, you need the support, you need some guidance, and we try to see how best we can facilitate that. So you can always reach out to me if you would like us to do one again. It's usually run once a year for the SCA, or sometimes twice a year, either between September and December, and another one January, February before the exam in March. And if the name of the academy, it's the Academy of Creative English, the Academy of Creative English. The Academy of Creative English, you can do a search for it. And my name, as I said before, I am Kimmery Richardson Thomas, and it has been a pleasure interacting with you all today. And again, as I said, feel free to reach out to us if you need any other assistance. Our aim, and at some point we may need to just change it to the Academy of Creative Education, because we are concerned about the holistic education of all our students in the region, not just Trinidad and Tobago, but across the region, because what you do as students will determine the kind of adults, the kind of responsible adults we have in the future. So thank you again, everyone. A pleasant good afternoon, and I hope to see you again at another ACE workshop series going forward. All the best and goodbye.